that for a second. Is that actually correct? Because if you have that void within you and you feel loneliness within you, if you're afraid of abandonment, how do you get someone to stop fearing abandonment?
You don't abandon them.
Absolutely. So this needs to be understood, Reckful. You cannot fix this for yourself.
That's a bit scary, yeah.
BPD, there's actually some very interesting data. So a lot of people think of BPD as being incurable. But there's some really fascinating data that if you can get in a stable relationship for 2 years and have someone not abandon you, then there's a 50% chance your BPD will like actually go away. I think it's relevant.
I think it's relevant because it helps paint a fuller picture of the story of our family.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, his experience was probably a lot harder than mine, because he was 16 when it happened, and it's more formative years, I guess, or I'd guess so. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And his personality shifted, 180 degrees when it happened. He was texting me talking about how he feels to blame that my brother died, and he feels like he knew he was going to kill himself and that he could have stopped it. And he feels like my brother didn't directly tell him, but he knew. And when you go down that thought process, it's really hard.
What's hard about that thought process?
For him, to take the blame on for it, that's very hard. And I was telling him though that it would have happened regardless if it didn't happen that day, because I know what it's like to be sad for years, and it's really hard to avoid trying to kill yourself at some point.
Yeah.
Now, unless he had found a really good therapist or some medication, I think it would have happened regardless.
Or psilocybin.
Yeah, which that's medication, I think.
Yeah. What is that satisfaction that you're looking for? What is that feeling that you're like when you connect with someone and they understand you?
Just I can feel what it is right now, but I can't describe it. My right brain knows.
What does it feel like in your body?
It's that feeling when you really want to hug. Don't know how else to describe it. Yeah.
What I'm seeing in your face is an aching loneliness. Just an abject sense of just being alone.
Yeah.
And it like hurts, right? It's like not just being lonely. Like lonely doesn't describe it. It's like hurts. Feels like something's missing, and the only thing that can, like, you need someone else to fill that in. Because you've tried for a long time to like fill it yourself and you just can't.
Yeah. But it keeps happening where the people I'm trying to fill it in with think I'm crazy.
Yeah.
Because they're not as needy as I am.
So now there's a whole other layer to this. Do you need a minute or can we keep going?
No, we can keep going.
So I think there are two fears here. One is like the feeling of aching and loneliness. And the second is when you find those people, the fear that they're going to leave too, that you're going to do something and then they're going to stop returning your texts.
And they do.
Yeah. So it's not an irrational fear, right? So what do we call that?
I don't.
What do we call it when you're afraid of someone leaving?
Don't you call it fear of abandonment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in your case, Reckful, this needs to be understood very clearly. So some people, when they recognize those things within themselves, they blame themselves, right? They say, I shouldn't feel this way, or this is weakness, or I should be able to be independent. Do you have those thoughts?
I used to, because everyone I talked to would tell me, "Oh, I don't know why you're in a relationship when you can't even be happy alone." Or, that's a very common line I hear. And I would say, well, if I wasn't in the relationship, I'd want to die.
Okay.
Obviously, not a healthy
So,
train of thought.
happiness within you, if you're afraid of abandonment, how do you get someone to stop fearing abandonment?
You don't abandon them.
Absolutely. So this needs to be understood, Reckful. You cannot fix this for yourself.
That's a bit scary, yeah?
Right? So it's not
Yeah.
that the relationship has to happen after you fix this for yourself. Or I mean, maybe you can fix it for yourself. Maybe that's unfair for me to say. It's kind of like a blanket statement. So I think maybe you can.
Just generally what you've seen.
But generally, when I think about people who have been abandoned, they fear abandonment. And that's what happened to you, right? Like, because apparently you weren't abandoned by just one brother.
Yeah.
Right? How old are you now?
30.
Okay. So when you were 15, one brother left when you were 6. And the other brother left when you were
15, yeah.
Yeah. And that's hard, right? And so like this is like, so I mean I don't want
it wasn't just like he left for a job or to school. It was he left the country and never came back. I agree with you that most people wouldn't like the feeling of reliance on anything like that. I also often get the feeling of reliance on other people.
Yep.
I don't do well alone. And I'll be very overbearing for people sometimes because sometimes I feel like I just need someone to talk to. I can't be in my thoughts. I'm losing my mind in my room. I just can't handle it. So I'll just message someone and they won't respond. And I'll message them again and I'll have this huge wall of text. And then they'll be like, oh, this person is just too much for me. Even if it's a long-term friend, someone I've known for like 7 years.
Yeah.
Just be like, and then I'll notice they'll start talking to me less and less because of these situations where I was overbearing or just needed them at the specific time and try to push them to go outside with me or, spontaneously. I always want to do these spontaneous things. And most people like to plan more. I've always had trouble planning. I never bought a round trip plane ticket. Yeah.
What is it within you that, what are you hungry for in those moments where you need someone else?
Connection. I want to hear someone relating to me in some way. Well, I think I do, but then if I actually reach out to someone very depressed, then we bounce off back and forth about how much life sucks, and it just gets darker and darker. So, and then if I reach out to someone happy, I can't relate to them.
Sounds like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
So it looks like you're looking for something, but I mean, are there people that you can connect with that sort of have the balance that makes you feel better?
Once in a while, and it's really incredible when I find that. And those people mean so much to me. I'm so scared for them to disappear. Because there'll be people who have been there but are currently okay. And I think those are the ones, when I talk to them, they can relate, but they can also be optimists.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important realization. So I'm going to just repeat back some words at you. And so it sounds like you're looking for connection.
Yes.
Right? And that you're looking for a particular kind of connection, someone who understands where you are, but at the same time isn't where you are.
Yes.
And when you find someone like that, you feel something within you feels really good. So how do we describe the way you feel when you find someone like that?
When I find someone like that, oh, well, it feels, I guess I was smiling just thinking about it. I think I'm looking a little bit for family in my friendships. And it feels like I have a family member at that moment.
Have you thought about that before?
No, that was just now. Well, I've had a moral in my head since I started streaming, and I guess since I've started living, really, that I always want to be true to myself. I want to,
Awesome. I can get behind that.
it's one of my favorite ones because the because is a little harder to define. I've always noticed myself getting annoyed with other people who are putting up a facade or an alternate persona. I also think it's damaging to society in general for anyone to be pretending to be happy when they're not. Actually sharing your pain helps others relate. If people are just watching happy people all the time, they wonder what's wrong with me. You know,
I think that encapsulates a lot of what's the damage of social media.
Yeah, I agree. And even on social media, even I'm guilty of it because I don't feel like tweeting, "Hey, I want to die right now." Doesn't really, don't really tweet that. But and then if I'm having a good thought, a happy thought, I'll tweet that. If I'm live streaming, I'll share the negative and the positive. But on social media, you tend not to.
Out of curiosity, if you tweet, "I feel like dying right now," and you get a bunch of likes for that tweet,
What does the like mean? Yeah.
what does that even mean? Does that mean we love you and please don't hurt yourself, or does it mean
I don't know. We could
the
test
opposite?
it.
It's like so confusing. I don't even know what that means. Like I wouldn't know how to interpret that.
I think all the employees of Everland would be a little worried about their job if I tweeted it.
Sure.
Which was not good for me or for anyone else.
So, can you help us understand what you meant when you were a 5-head or 6-head and you said, "I feel like I'm trying to replace," I feel like I'm trying to, I'm treating my friends like family or something?
Yeah. So,
how did you get to that conclusion?
Well, it crossed my mind this feeling I had when I was 5 years old and came home and saw laughing and smiling faces on the couch. Something I never saw again after I was 6. I've been thinking about that a lot recently, ever since we started talking, and I realize I've always craved that to come back, to bring that back, and a couple times I've tried to facilitate situations with friends where this would happen. I lived with a bunch of friends in a gamer house, and I'd want to come home and see a couple friends around the couch.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'd be playing Mario or something. And coming home to that gave me some deep satisfaction that I needed. I guess from my childhood. But maybe not just from my childhood. I mean, people need it as adults too, if they had it.
So what is that satisfaction that you're looking for? What is that feeling that you're like when you connect with someone and they understand you?
Just I can feel what it is right now, but I can't describe it. My right brain knows.
What does it feel like in your body?
It's that feeling when you really want a hug. Don't know how else to describe it. Yeah.
What I'm seeing in your face is an aching loneliness. Just an abject sense of just being alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it like hurts, right? It's like not just being lonely. Like lonely doesn't describe it. It's like hurts. Feels like something's missing, and the only thing that can, like, you need someone else to fill that in, because you've tried for a long time to like fill it yourself and you just can't.
Yeah. But it keeps happening where the people I'm trying to fill it in with think I'm crazy.
Yeah.
You know, because they're not as needy as I am.
So now there's a whole other layer to this. Do you need a minute, or can we keep going?
No, we can keep going.
So I think there are two fears here. One is like the feeling of aching and loneliness, and the second is when you find those people, the fear that they're going to leave too, that you're going to do something and then they're going to stop returning your texts.
And they do.
Yeah. So it's not an irrational fear, right? So what do we call that?
I don't.
What do we call it
fear?
when you're afraid of someone leaving?
Don't you call it fear of abandonment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in your case, Reckful, this needs to be understood very clearly. So some people, when they recognize those things within themselves, they blame themselves, right? They say, I shouldn't feel this way, or this is weakness, or I should be able to be independent. Do you have those thoughts?
I used to, because everyone I talked to would tell me, oh, I don't know why you're in a relationship when you can't even be happy alone. Or, you know, that's a very common line I hear. And I would say, well, if I wasn't in the relationship, I'd want to die.
Okay.
Obviously not a healthy train of thought. But it would...
I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, okay? Now, if you have someone who's lonely, or not even lonely, how does someone get comfortable? How can I say this? How does someone get comfortable with being alone? Like, what has to happen for them to feel comfortable with, like, separation from other human beings? And this may be a little bit of a read my mind question, so sorry, I don't know how to ask it well.
Well, I mean, that void you're talking about needs to be filled, but I don't know how to fill it. If I had a family, maybe it would be okay. But in my situation, what can I do?
Not in your situation, what you can do. Oddly enough, I think you're on the right track, and I want to stop you there because I want to talk about someone else. Let's talk about someone besides you. Right? If you have a person who feels lonely and feels like they have a void within them, what is the solution? Because there's the camp of people who says, why are you in a relationship if you can't be happy by yourself? Right? They're saying like, okay, the first thing you need to do is fill that void, and then you can be with someone in a healthy and productive way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's what they say.
That's what they say, right? But let's just think about that for a second. Is that actually correct? Because if you have that void within you and you feel loneliness within you, if you're afraid of abandonment, how do you get someone to stop fearing abandonment?
You don't abandon them.
Absolutely. So this needs to be understood, Reckful. You cannot fix this for yourself.
That's a bit scary, yeah?
Right? So it's not that the relationship has to happen after you fix this for yourself. Or I mean, maybe you can fix it for yourself. Maybe that's unfair for me to say. It's kind of like a blanket statement. So I think maybe you can.
Just generally what you've seen.
But generally, when I think about people who have been abandoned, they fear abandonment. And that's what happened to you, right? Like, because apparently you weren't abandoned by just one brother.
Yeah.
Right? How old are you now?
30.
Then what happens is you have this thing that's afraid that other people are going to leave you. And I think the problem is that you're smart. And something probably very vicious happens, and I can
It's
imagine
a self-fulfilling prophecy that if I'm afraid they're going to leave me, then they will leave me because I'll be overbearing and they can't.
And you can see it happening, and it terrifies you because you can't stop it, and you know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And each time it happens, it's another abandonment, another abandonment, another abandonment.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had about... There have been like 3 or 4 people just in the last few months that I've started to talk to regularly, and then I was quickly too much. They liked me at first, my company, and then I was quickly too needy or too much for them, and they started feeling like they should ignore me, which is it doesn't even feel unreasonable. I'm not mad.
Yeah. So what it comes down to, so I'm going to share a little bit of data, okay? And I want to be very clear about this. I'm going to talk to you about something called borderline personality disorder. I don't think you have this, by the way, and it's not
Really?
one place to diagnose.
Okay, a lot of people think I do have that.
Maybe you do. I don't know. So I don't have enough diagnostics.
I don't know.
So I'm going to just talk a little bit about borderline personality disorder because I think that there's some features of it which are relevant.
Yeah.
And also like some very interesting data that some people don't know. So the first is that borderline personality disorder, a lot of times these people have a fear of abandonment. Okay. And so they do get overly clingy. And as they get overly clingy, they sort of like force people away. And then it kind of like reinforces their fear that like they're unlovable.
Yeah.
And then that sort of, and each round makes it worse because once you do it to the first person, your sense of being unlovable increases. And then when you interact with the next human being, like that wolf has become hungrier. And so when they sort of treat you well, they feel really good about themselves. And when the person starts to like kind of slip away, it gets like stronger and stronger and stronger. And each round is like becomes, as you put it, a self-fulfilling prophecy and makes it harder. Mm-hmm. Now, what many people don't know about BPD is that BPD, there's actually some very interesting data. So a lot of people think of BPD as being incurable. But there's some really fascinating data that if you can get in a stable relationship for 2 years and have someone not abandon you, then there's a 50% chance your BPD will like actually go away. So it's really fascinating. Yeah. And I think
it's the opposite of you shouldn't get in a relationship until you're stable on your own.
Yeah. So a lot of people struggle with BPD. But it's a really fascinating little snippet of research, which I don't think is like well understood by many people, disputed by many people. But the truth is that the majority of people who have BPD never see a psychiatrist. They just live their lives. And then some people they're just like kind of crazy until like their 30s and their second marriage. And they find someone who's like stable enough to like not abandon them and also deal with their like neediness. And then like over time they get better. Because they start to like recognize, oh, this person actually isn't going to leave. And then like, if you realize that someone isn't going to leave you, then what does that do to like the hungry, like that aching loneliness inside?
I heard you, but your camera froze.
Oh shit. Sorry. Yeah, this is freezing, but
okay. What the last couple of words went a little robot.
So what
does that do to
the aching loneliness inside you if someone doesn't leave you and you have faith and confidence in that?
I'd become more stable. I'd go through my days feeling like my presence was desired. I'd be able to go in my room alone and work on something and not feel like I needed to be near someone at that moment because I know they'd be there for me later.
Exactly. That's the key thing, right? You know they're going to be here for you later. And the problem right now is when you start texting people a little bit much and they can't handle it, you don't know that they're going to be there for you.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
And that's what terrifies you. So the other way, so like even if you dispute the research on BPD, and I don't know if you have BPD or you don't have BPD, but think about it this way. If a child feels insecure about like being abandoned, like what do you do? Like when a kid
probably hug them a lot and just spend time with them. And,
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So like, I'll share a little bit from my personal life. So when I had my second kid, my first kid was like really confused, and she was like super, super clingy to me because she didn't understand what was happening. So like I went to the hospital with my wife, and we were like at the hospital, and my in-laws, so her grandparents, were staying with her. They did an awesome job, and she likes them. But she was 2 years old, and she literally did not understand what was going on. She did not understand like why my wife and I would not come home.
Yeah.
And she would come and see us every day in the hospital. And she would be like excited when she saw us, and she would actually be okay leaving because she's like a pretty, confident, sort of loving kid.
Mm-hmm.
But she just did not understand like why mommy and daddy were like not coming back. And so she got super, super clingy for about a year. And that was like doubly so because especially towards the end of my wife's pregnancy, she used to do some things like she would Bollywood dance with my 2-year-old. But as she was like 8 and 9 months pregnant, she can't pick her up and throw her in the air and things like that. And so the 2-year-old was already like noticing that something is different. And then she like was attached to me at the hip.
Even at that age, there's that perceptive, huh?
That perceptive.
Yeah.
Right? So then for a period of about a year, and she didn't understand because like my wife would have to feed the newborn, right? So she was like tired all day and things like that. She couldn't be like the person that my 2-year-old had come to know and love and expect.
The level of attention she had come to expect had diminished.
Yeah. And so she did not feel good in herself, right? The 2-year-old just didn't. Because she didn't understand why these people are not doing the things, like, is something wrong with me? She didn't understand why they went away. Yeah. Because when you're 2 or because when you're 5 and someone goes away, like, you don't understand why they did that. You don't have the capacity to understand that they did that because of them and not because of you.
Yeah. I still never believe that sentence.
Yep. Right? Because like you can't believe it because you didn't have the capacity to believe it. And that thing still exists within you. And so what did she need to get out of it? So she's 2, not that complicated, right? She needed a third of her life to have someone who did not like abandon her in a very like intentional way. So my wife and I, we had this like conversation when she was like, we had these several conversations that like, okay, your bond with the new kid is not the same as your bond with the old kid because you're spending all the time with Vera. Vera's our older daughter. Our younger daughter's name is Avi. And so she was like saying that like, you're not spending time with Avi the way that you used to spend time with Vera. And we would kind of like talk about it. And it's like, well, yeah, that's because like Vera needs me more. And so we're really concerned about sort of playing favorites and stuff. But I think in her case, it took her... Huh?
That's tough. I haven't thought about the intricacies of having multiple children and how you want it to be balanced where you give them both equal time. But what if one of them needs you more because they're like this? Yeah. Then you start to give one more attention, then the other one might be subtly losing confidence that's tough. I wouldn't know what to do. There's no obvious logical solution.
Well, I mean, so when you talk to people, I think there are solutions that are simpler that tend to do the trick. So, for example, like we made it a point to do like one-on-one time. Like each of us would swap traditional things. So, like for example, my wife would usually give Vera a bath, and then I'd say like, okay, for this month, I'm going to give her a bath instead of you. Let's just swap the things that we do. So there are a couple of actually pretty easy, like low-hanging fruit. Turns out to be not.
It's something. It's not exactly balanced. So I mean, it's
but
hard.
It's just they need like some one-on-one time consistently. But the point here, Reckful, is I think like your solution is not that like you need to learn how to be independent. I think like I don't know if I'm painting this picture for you appropriately, but like what do you think needs? So like what did we manage to do for our 2-year-old that never happened for you?
You gave the 2-year-old enough attention.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you need. You need someone in your life who's not going to turn away for a period of at least 2 years. And you may be terrified that they'll turn away at 2.5.
Right. I might never get it. I mean, there's no guarantee I will, but I'll look for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So sure there is.
I would not say so. I
There's only one
I've
way.
gotten in some really unhealthy situations because I'm so desperate for human interaction that I'll have, paid people's rent just so they'd be my roommate. So I'd have someone around, done it a few times. Just a lot of dumb things like that, or try to get them to quit their jobs and like give them a new job that requires less time so I could have a friend. And then obviously I've realized that these things are unhealthy, but I was just in desperate situations where I needed human interaction.
So, Reckful, I'm confident okay. I'm confident.
I know that they'll really spend 2 years with me unless there's
So,
something
Reckful,
like that.
I'm not counting on them to spend 2 years with you.
What are you counting on?
I'm counting on myself. It's the only
Oh, that
thing I
you'll
can't
spend
be
2 years with
confident
me. Yeah, that I believe. That I can believe.
in. So I can't trust any of them.
True.
So I'm gonna
It's
try to
nice
love
having
you.
someone to come to every week like this.
I'm gonna try to love you for 2 years, at a minimum.
I really appreciate it.
So this is the other thing is that I do helping people, but I also like helping you. And I want you to understand this, Reckful. I'm not even helping you. Like, this isn't help. I don't like the phrase help. Help implies like charity, right? It implies that you have something and that you have nothing and I have something and I'm like helping you. I'm not helping you. This is just me being human and you being human. I don't know if that makes any sense. I think it's one of the hardest concepts.
What do you mean by human?
It's just like we're just being us, man. It's not something fancy.
You're
it's
doing
not
what you
something magical.
enjoy.
It's not about enjoy. It's I'm being who I am and you are being who you are. And that's the most that we can expect of ourselves.
Yeah, I want to say that I fully understand, but I
That's
don't.
okay.
Yeah.
And if you do spam me with walls of text, I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
No, actually, I like this. This is good practice that I have to wait the week.
Yeah.
Because that's what other people want me to do. They want me to plan ahead and wait to see them when they have time, and not be like, "Oh, I need to hang out right now. I need, let's go outside. I need someone to talk to, please." Yeah.
But I think that the real you and is not all happiness. That's not what life is like. Life is not just like, just the happy side of life. And then there are a lot of people who try to chase that part of themselves. What I would advocate for you to do, along with just about everyone else, is that you be both of these people and you learn how to be sad, Reckful better. Because I do believe that you can be this person and it not be as hard or as painful as it is for you to experience like day to day now. Like, I think that if you have someone who consistently loves you and demonstrates that they're not going to leave you for a period of 2 years, like being this person is going to be completely different. And the sad and difficult thing is that's not something you can do. You can't make someone love you. Like, that's just something that depends on your karma. Someone has to come into your life and you have to like create this time and space for that relationship to grow.
It makes sense what you're saying, because there have been times in my life where I've just given everything up for a relationship, and now I understand why. I'll just stop streaming and I'll go anywhere, do anything to be closer to the person.
Yeah.
And because, yeah.
And so this is the hard thing. This is why I guess maybe I'm shooting myself in the foot here, but I guess I'm volunteering. And the reason is because I think that person needs to also, I mean, they don't need to understand this, but I think that person needs to not let you do that as well.
Yeah.
Right? So that person
I've realized that.
Don't let you, like, if you want to move to Boston, I'm going to say no.
Right.
Right? And it doesn't mean that I don't care about you, but it's just you should continue to live your life and have some degree of constancy from someone. And it sounds like you're in a romantic relationship. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be.
Right now, I'm not. No.
Oh, okay.
I was, though. I dated a Twitch streamer girl, and we met in Japan. We were both IRL streaming in Japan now. And it was so exciting to meet like that. And then we traveled to other places together. But then when life kind of settled and slowed down, I, was slowly giving up everything just to spend more time with her. At one point, I actually deleted my Twitch channel, which my viewers thought was insane. Because I don't know. I can't even explain why. I don't know.
Okay. Well,
but,
conversation for a different day.
Yeah.
I mean, the one I tell is the game trail. So, like, if you think about like a field and a deer walks across it, like the whole field is the same, but the deer walks across one path and that grass is a little bit trampled. And so the next animal that goes by takes that path again and it becomes a little bit more trampled. And then over time, you develop a trail.
And this trail is what your thoughts are following over and over.
Yeah. And that's how your neurons work too. That once you get used to thinking in a particular cycle, like your thoughts, like kind of they love going down that pathway again.
How do we untrample the grass, or how do we break these loops without medication?
So medication doesn't break the loops. Let's start there. Okay.
Really?
So
okay.
Yeah. So like, let's just think about it. So if you were to say, let's say we have a field of grass and we have a game trail because 1,000 animals have gone down it. And I were to ask you, Reckful, how do we make a different game trail?
We'd have to repeat new thoughts in our head over and over.
There it is. Right? So we have to
I think why people do the gratitude journals.
Yeah.
A little bit, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's one reason they do gratitude. So I think gratitude is one way to do that. But I think
is fun.
Huh?
I just said talking to you is fun.
So the other thing is we think about things in a new way, right? And once you learn something, like once you start like recognizing, oh, okay. And I think you recognize things within yourself. So you recognize, okay, there's a thought, my mind is about to go down this game trail, but I've also started this other game trail. So let me see if I can redirect down there. That's what reframing a cognitive bias is about. So when people tell you like, oh, Reckful, you're lonely and you should learn how to be independent. And then you beat yourself up for feeling lonely and you feel like you should be independent because there are other people who are your age and look at how independent they are. All of your thoughts, those are a bunch of game trails, but then you say, no, hold on a second. I'm different and I do feel lonely. I'm allowed to feel lonely and I'm going to feel lonely until I get enough love.
I love that you're telling me this because everyone else has told me the opposite my whole life.
Yeah, and how has that worked for you?
No good.
There we go.
Yeah.
Right? So I mean, that's like the clinician within me says, if you give someone a treatment for 30 years and it doesn't work, maybe try something else.
Yeah. It's like the trying the same thing over and over is the definition of insanity thing.
Right? So it doesn't work for you. So if at first you don't succeed, don't try again. Try it a different way.
Yeah.
And in your case, I don't think, it's not a complicated psychological thing. I think maybe it is, but like, I think at the end of the day, like you just needed more TLC than you got. And it doesn't mean that your parents did a bad job or that anyone did a bad job. Tender love and care.
Tender love and care.
And you, boomer terminology, Reckful. So the only thing that I would say for you, Reckful, is the only mistake that I think you can truly make is to not be reflective about it.
Okay.
If you go through an honest process of exploring alternatives and seeing how the way you feel and trying to live is sad Reckful as opposed to happy Reckful, like explore that and then come to your own conclusion, and whatever conclusion you come to, I'm behind you. Just don't do it on autopilot. That's the only thing.
Thanks.
That had more of an emotional impact than I was expecting.
Same.
I was in professor mode. I don't know if you guys caught that, but there are different modes. One is I'm quiet and I'm listening, and the other is I'm teaching. It's my teacher voice. But okay, well,
Yeah. No, it was this feeling that you accepted me to, and that gave me the option to make my own decisions as long as I'm consciously, critically thinking and analyzing them.
yeah,
Which is
And-
I appreciate.
yeah, and I think it's not my place to tell you that something is right or wrong. I mean, I may do that from time to time, but I think the most important thing is for you to decide. I think you should explore.
Maybe I should just, should I get us out of here? Maybe the trick is that I need to die to get to the next part. There's another game. Should I risk it and find out? No? What if it's like Inception? Old stuff right now. Maybe it's all uphill from here, though. Everybody, we'll see. I will see you guys either tomorrow or the next day. Oh man. If you guys get lonely, you should talk to each other maybe and find some friends to play games with. If any of you play games, I feel like people are always too scared to meet new people, try to meet others. Anyway, goodbye everybody. Like yeah, I mean each other, yeah, in chat, because you probably have there's probably a lot of like-minded people in the chat at this moment, you know. Have a good night. See you guys tomorrow or the next day. Get your Bible thumps ready. Motherfucking Cookie Monster gonna watch this shit. He's gonna be crying over here. I can't pee up, man. Oh man. Let's come back here someday when we're old.
Okay.
Don't forget. Really, though.
Yeah.
Okay. When we're 64,
64.
let's sit on this bench.
This bench.
Let me get a nice photo of the bench. Don't forget.